It's my first time critically tackling the metal gods themselves, and it's a challenge straight out of the gate. Welcome to Everyone Does Music, where today we're taking a look at the 8th studio album from American thrash metal, hard metal, plain metal, just metal band in general, Metallica. And it's called Saint Anger. Quick shout out to my friend Kevin, who actually commissioned me to review this album along with another Metallica album, Death Magnetic. Keep an eye out for that review coming probably the same day as this one. It might be on the channel beforehand or afterhand. Regardless, keep an eye out for the Death Magnetic review as well. Once again, thank you, Kevin, for that commission. Saint Anger comes after 2 albums from Metallica that were really more exploratory in nature, those being Load and Reload, respectively. These albums saw more of a hard rock edge at some points, kind of leaning into more like almost blues rock, some southern rock influence here and there. It was overall a departure from the band's previous efforts. Not completely and totally, like you can still very much tell that these were Metallica riffs, these were Metallica songs being put together with the same focus on trying to create something enjoyable to listen to, but with enough of an edge to keep you at the edge of your seats. It was a pretty curious atmosphere from fans when we heard that Saint Anger was going to be coming out next. The struggles, trials, tribulations, James Hetfield's own insert into rehab, it's all been heavily documented. It's been talked about a dozen plus times. I'm not going to be the music reviewer to just regurgitate the same information that you already know. And if you really do want to check this out, I'm going to link a video, hopefully right here if I remember to edit it correctly. Hey Hunter in editing, put a screenshot of the video right here. Summing it up though super quickly, there was a lot going on around the time of Saint Anger, from the Napster lawsuits to just, again, James Hetfield's own personal struggles, which got pumped into this album, and along with just so many other things. But mostly here in this review, we're going to be focusing on the music itself. Speaking of the music, let's get the obvious, loud, aluminum sounding elephant out of the room. Lars Ulrich and his drum set were not getting along really well during this album. There's plenty of arguments that can be made that Lars Ulrich in general is a shitty drummer, not the greatest drummer. I've seen multiple people on both sides of the fence saying, oh no, he's one of the pioneers of metal. Oh no, he's a drunk fuck who's not doing anything worthwhile. But I'm just going to say that trying to listen to the techniques, the drum fills, the occasional drum solo sounding moments, you can tell that he's trying to put together something good. He's not just trying to go through the motions. He's not just trying to shit something out for this band due to his feelings about the process surrounding the band. But oh god, if it doesn't sound like just shit. Even when it's reduced to just simple timekeeping moments, like in choruses or bridges that turn into, like, try to make the transition from chorus to verse, the sound and the way it's presented just take away from the experience completely. Fuck, at certain points it feels like they're trying to go for a more industrial tone in this album, which Metallica going full industrial would probably be fantastic. Like, I'm talking something kind of in the veins of like a Rob Zombie or like a Power Man 5000, like some earlier Marilyn Manson. A Metallica album like that would probably be really good, but that's not what they were trying to do here on Saint Anger. But it sounds like that's what Lars is trying to do on the drum set, which it's just ignoring the constant pangs and goddamn noise. Another interesting choice instrumentally was the lack of solos here on Saint Anger from James Hetfield. Now, this was an interesting choice for a few reasons. Obviously, the lack of solos in a metal album at this point was kind of something that a lot of people looked at like, what? What do you mean there's no solos? There's got to be solos, especially with Metallica and what their music has been thus far. From what I could tell, reading past articles and just looking at, the god himself, James Hetfield in general, at this point he was regarded as sort of like a wizard in the metal music genre for the types of things he could string together into the solos and songs like One, Unforgiven, and so on. But stripping away the solos means you get a lot of either you blink and you miss it guitar moments, a sort of try to give you a quick slap in the face and then run off and immediately just are never seen again, or you get the same guitar riffs reused over and over from chorus to verse, and it's overall just the same sort of instrumental throughout an entire song. And this can really lead into hearing that same instrumental tone in other songs, which we're going to get into later on, the sort of like feeling of sameness there. Even going back as early as Kill 'Em All or Ride the Lightning, you can argue that Metallica does get to a certain point in their songs where it's like, okay, they're repeating themselves, okay, we're back to square one, we're running the track again. Like, Metallica, as much as I personally enjoy them, and even people I know who they're their favorite band, everyone can kind of admit that at a certain point, yeah, Metallica does the same thing over and over. But Saint Anger here was probably the first time that everybody had that feeling. Everybody was sitting there like, okay, are we done yet? Is it the next track? Oh, it's the next track that's the same exact sound. What the hell's going on? Side note, not sponsored, but if you haven't tried this Gingerbread Snap Mountain Dew yet, pretty banging. Drinking Mountain Dew and Metallica in review. How much more American can that get? God bless. One of Metallica's biggest strengths throughout their career, and still to this day with a release as recent as Hardwired to Self-Destruct, is their ability to keep the listener enthralled and, once again, like I said earlier, on the edge of their seat, waiting for what's going to happen next, waiting for the next crushing guitar surge to hit. But with no swooping guitar solos to kind of like chop up the album in pieces and trying to rely on attempts at always crushing guitars as trying to make the song flow, it's not so much a flow that's happening, but more so just a constant like waterfall. Like the pressure is mounting, it's mounting and mounting, it's getting bigger, but it's staying at that level. It's not quite going over the plateau that you want it to hit with a Metallica song. And I can't think of any song that really quite scratches that itch in terms of trying to produce something good enough in the repetitive verse and chorus guitar structure that would make up for the lack of solos. Even in songs like the first track here, Frantic, where James Hetfield himself really tries to make up for the lack of guitar solos, trying to put as much intensity into the song as possible, as going so far as kind of letting loose and getting frantic with the chorus, sort of like going with the repetitive, the strained frantic tick 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 tuck. Like you can hear his voice kind of like just start like slowly going out of that general like sort of vocal tone he keeps, and he's trying to freshen things up. He's trying to add a new element to make up for something that's not already there. Not even that can really distract you from the fact that, hey, where's the that kind of thing. Speaking more briefly on Frantic as well, it's a good introduction to the album's overall themes, which is battling, addiction, battling self-toxicity, and the struggles and discourse that comes with after dealing with the fact and currently dealing with the fact. I think Frantic does frame that thematically pretty well, but once again, going back to, you ain't got no solos, you got Lars Ulrich trying to be Sean Crahan and smacking a trash can with a baseball bat in the back room. They didn't give him the right mic, though. It doesn't sound as good as Slipknot. Oh, that's gonna start a war in the comments. Please don't. We're gonna be doing this a lot in this review. We're gonna follow in track order here, going to the title track, Saint Anger now. In the beginning of the song, you get kind of like a bait and switch with the introduction of the song really being an absolute hammer down on some metal. Like, not just, again, I'm not just trying to make a reference to Lars. Like, seriously though, the introduction to the song does hit fast and it hits hard, but the switch comes in when James starts singing and you get more of like a crooning, like almost what's a good song to compare this to? Kind of expect to get something like That Was Just Your Life, and I'm jumping ahead in another album, but just stick with me here. And instead you get something more akin to One in terms of vocal delivery. The idea and the theme behind the lyrics is easy to understand. It's this comparison between anger and love. There's some nice little lyrical moments, like with comparisons such as anger is a noose around your neck, I'm madly in anger with you, so on and so forth. Metallica is one of those rare bands that you can really take a subject and explore it pretty point blank, pretty just to the fact, like with Saint Anger, or you can also delve deep into telling grandiose stories. But this time I make to go with the former here, trying to tell just like a quick, simplistic, like, hey, here's the idea, here's some guitar and bass and drums and kind of bass from Bob Rock. And if it wasn't for the fact that, again, we're relying on repetitivity here, we're relying on an over-reliance, in fact, of the choruses and verses as opposed to the solo breaking it up, if the solo were to exist, it doesn't deliver enough alone just on its simplicities here, and there kind of leaves you wanting more. Speaking again on choruses coming back for seconds, thirds, fourths even, I think it's something that needs to be said that there are some moments here and there where James and, again, Bob Rock doing studio bass try to kind of get a finger in your face, be like, hey, come back, we got you, come back. But they don't have enough snaps in your face, and they don't have enough snaps in the music to keep you occupied enough to realize that the middle of this album, it's an absolute drag. I'm about to make some wild comparisons here, but in terms of just how almost miserable the middle of this album is, there's a certain point where I was listening to the middle of this album and I was trying to find anything to like in it, in terms of just like, okay, is there a good lyrical moment? Does, do any of the members sort of like come out of nowhere and provide something crazy, like something good, something interesting? that doesn't really happen. And it's kind of, you can compare it to some albums that came out this year. One absolutely not metal and one more hard rock. The feeling that I got listening to the middle of this album, all by the way, being Dirty Window, Invisible Kid, My World, that being the middle of the album. It's kind of comparable to the same feeling I got when listening to Asking Alexandria Is Like a House on Fire, and this is going to get me absolutely bludgeoned in the middle of the streets, but I got the same kind of feeling of, okay, please let this song end, please let me get to something new and fresh. That Zayn's Nobody Is Listening album gave me. Every time light tries to shine through one of these songs, every time you get a moment where it's like, oh, this is hope, something happens to drag back down. Like Invisible Kid is an absolute missed opportunity on this album, because you look at the vocal delivery, you look at the way that the lyrics are structured, you look at that song and you think, okay, on paper, this could be probably the standout song. This could be something that really takes the cake for being a good song on a bad album, but it doesn't. James vocally falls flat. There's not a drum track to rely on to kind of like pick the pacing back up, of course. So all in all, you just get another bland addition to the album. Not really a criticism, just something I noted a little bit in my head. I was listening to this song. I was listening to Invisible Kid, and for some fucking reason, it started to sound like Left Behind by Slipknot. Of course, Left Behind being the better one here. That's my second comparison to Slipknot. Please don't beat me to death in the middle of the streets. Please, I'm a good boy. This part of the album is what I revisited the most. I tried to drag something positive to say out of this middle part of the album, not the beginning, middle. Because I sat here and thought to myself, okay, there's no way this is all negative. There's gotta be something to pull. I couldn't pull Diamonds Out of Shit worth hell. Truthfully, this part of the album is like trying to run through a swamp. You know, you're already having a rough time. You're trying to traverse through its terrain. You're getting vines, leaves, tree branches caught in your face. And then Invisible Kid and Dirty Window hits, and all of a sudden you're in quicksand. You're stuck. You can't get out. But there's a hand reaching out just when you're about to sink fully in. That hand's name is Shoot Me Again. Proving as a much needed wake-up call fueled by absolute, probably pure hatred, fueled into the band by the whole Napster incident, which the song kind of revolves around. This song feels like it should have been pumped probably a little earlier into the track list here, but it does work pretty well as, again, a wake-up call here in terms of the spot in the track list and how it just kind of serves as the immediate, like, hey, this is you, you're feeling kind of bad about the album, this is you, hey, here, Shoot Me Again. This is all anger 24/7, whereas some of the earlier songs, this is all anger, just like the album's namesake, 24/7, whereas some of the earlier songs tried to put in some more like, sort of like catch and release moments, where you had some moments where a little slower, again leaning into the more hard rock, southern rock, not pure metal vibes that the album was trying to do and what the previous two albums kind of did. But all in all, it's the start of a couple positives here on the album, not just here in Shoot Me Again, but it does go a little further. Funny enough, with the song whose name I just fumbled, Sweet Amber, that song comes in with even more positive elements to add to the back end of this album. It's another song that explores a pretty basic subject at first glance, with it delving more into alcoholism, that forbidden gem, the amber underneath the dirt, the sweet amber. But it's explored in a way that's not only brutally honest, but allows for that little bit of vagueness that Metallica is really good at producing all throughout the track, at the same time as being just blunt with it. You can even go as far to say that the song allows for enough of a vague explanation that you can kind of have some open interpretation with it, which not a lot of Metallica songs really do. It's either you get this big grandiose story or you get this simple subject. One of these two things is usually explored. You don't usually get this like open-faced song here. The album winds down in the last part with some more interesting tracks and surprisingly very easy to kind of bang your head to song called Purify. I'll admit it's not a big, like, impressive moment, especially vocally, but it is a nice song. It's catchy enough. It's got a good beat. It's got a good, like, beat to it. It's got a good vibe all around it. But it's something good to just kind of, like, towards the end of the album, be like, okay, there's something good out of it. Kind of vibe out, hang out, bob your head, bang your head. And then closing out the album, you have the song All Within My Hands, which I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. A bit brutish here. It's a boring song. Nothing interesting is really done. It's just there. There's nothing more you can really say about it besides the fact that the god-awful drumming is pushed more to a head as all of the positive elements such as the unique guitar riffs or the decent vocal moments from James are essentially stripped away here as he kind of falls flat, dials it down a bit, and then you have Lars coming back in roaring like, don't worry guys, I got it. He did not have it. All in all, this album is a very exhausting effort, which usually you can praise Metallica for. It's usually, you sit down with a Metallica album, and it exhausts you in the fact that you're coming away from the album brutalized, beaten, bruised, scarred. You had a great time, you were rocked back and forth, you were thrown against the barricade. Except here with Saint Anger, they just kind of put some hooks on you, and they don't really let you move. They have you stuck in place, and you're forced to listen to this ongoing, like, ear-piercing sound. And a couple times there you sit there and you think, okay, maybe the ear-piercing isn't too bad. You know, maybe there's something more to it. But then the volume is dialed back up and you're sat back, you're left tired, you're left wanting more, you're left wanting something different. This album's like a car. It's hitting the gas in the beginning, kind of slowing down Saint Anger, and then absolutely hitting the brakes and stalling out in the middle of the road with the middle of this album. You get some more gas towards the end, but overall, you end up with a sputtering car that just never really got off the road. With all these reasons in mind, Saint Anger by Metallica gets a 6.2 out of 10. What did you think about Saint Anger? Is it an album that you go back to in Metallica's discography, or are you one of the few people who actually love the album? By all means, go down in the comment description. Go down in the comment section. Let's talk about the album. If you want to discuss any of the points I brought up and you want to say like, hey, you got this wrong, or hey, there was something you missed here, by all means, bring that up. We'll talk about it. I'm always open for discussion with these album reviews. Overall, I hope you have a great day. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you next time.